Welcome into the Energy Tech Podcast presented by OpSite Energy. Today we're filming live from ENTELEC 2026 and we're excited to welcome Pradhyum Ramkumar, Head of Marketing at Celona. Guys, welcome to Galveston.
Hey, Jeff, it is good to be here. I'm your co-host, Mike Flores, with the Energy Tech Podcast right here in lovely Galveston, Texas, as part of ENTELEC 2026. And again, we've got our guest with Celona, Mr. Pradhyum Ramkumar, right? I want to do that right. And he's here to talk about Celona, and it's good to have you on the show.
Thank you, Mike.
Yes. And so, we're going to kick this off and get it started. I really want you to give us an idea of what Celona does and why you're here at ENTELEC 2026.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm here at ENTELEC. I'm seeing people talking about data, people talking about sensors, and a lot of other things. But you have data, but how do you gather the data from the sensors?
Right.
This is a big problem, especially in an industrial setting. So what I'm going to talk about today is connectivity for the sensors. And a lot of these sensors have been wired so far.
Right.
They are all turning wireless.
Right.
But you cannot use your existing wireless mechanisms to do that. And I'm here to talk about private 5G and how that's revolutionizing the industrial intelligence and the future of industrial AI.
Yeah, I think you're right. So right here at ENTELEC, you have lots of end users. Aside from vendors, you've got end users that are what I consider to be critical infrastructure partners. These are oil and gas industries, people in energy space, where critical infrastructure is important and how things communicate is important. You hit on that. And so what I'm understanding is that you are really paying attention to, you have all this great technology, you have all this great AI and machine learning. We're going to talk about that too. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a serious wireless backbone or a wireless implementation, it is difficult to even get your hands on that data. Is that right?
Yeah, and that's one. And then the other one is, I visit a lot of refineries to visit customers. I still see people walking around with pen and paper.
Yes.
And the answer is very simple. It's not like people haven't tried giving them a tablet. They give them a tablet. They go into, top of a boiler or something, and the connection does not work. So it's not like consistent.
Yes.
And because it's not consistent, people give up on those and revert back to paper and pen. How are you going to attract the next generation of talent into a oil and gas industry if you're going back to a paper and pen way of looking at things?
Yeah, so I think you're right. I think that a lot of organizations, number one, when you go to a refinery or you're looking at some oil and gas energy, a lot of it is what we call legacy setups. This is legacy equipment. You also have a generational gap in some cases. This means that someone is used to pen and paper. Now they create these mobile applications that they can use, but you are absolutely right. Who cares if I don't have the right type of connectivity? Who cares if I go onto a rack or I climb something and I have no direct connectivity? Tell me how Celona solves that with private 5G.
Yeah. So one of the challenges in these spaces is there's a lot of metal. These are typically in very remote areas. There's a lot of metal. And candidly, these were constructed at a time when connectivity was not even thought of. Like they just could throw people at it.
Right.
And and you can't just go there and say, all right, let me go put a Wi-Fi hotspot, right? Like everyone thinks Wi-Fi is ubiquitous, but putting a Wi-Fi in these areas is terrible because Wi-Fi, the signal strength with it Wi-Fi transmits is low. You typically are looking at maybe 5,000 square feet, best case scenario using a Wi-Fi hotspot. So if you take like a reasonably sized refinery, we did some analysis on this, it would take something like 300 Wi-Fi hotspots in order to cover that, which is like ridiculous in terms of infrastructure, maintenance, cabling. Like you have to cable those Wi-Fi hotspots. So. And when you look at, so that is not the way, and people don't put 300 Wi-Fi hotspots in a refinery. So they just settle for, okay, I'll not have connectivity here.
Right.
So what Celona is doing is we have a new technology called private 5G. And private 5G is different from your public 5G, wherein you're setting up a 5G infrastructure that is only for your plant, whether it's a manufacturing plant, whether it's a warehouse, or whether it's a refinery.
Right.
You're setting it up just for your plant. So think about, connecting a radio, which looks very much like a Wi-Fi radio, on a pole or on some tower inside your refinery,
Right.
and providing ubiquitous coverage to everything in your refinery. And the ratio of a Wi-Fi radio to a private 5G radio is in the 1:20, 1:30 range. So where I said
it.
you need 300 Wi-Fi access points, you can basically cover an entire refinery with just like 10 radios.
So what I'm hearing from you right now is that Celona provides private 5G cellular expertise. In other words, you're going to go in, as part of this is you're going to look at a customer or a client's field makeup in the field, right? And correct me if I'm wrong here, but sometimes when you're looking at things like you're right, people want to deploy Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi signal kind of looks like a donut, right?
Yeah.
It's just kind of this donut that moves around, but you're going to need 300 of those donuts to even get some sort of reliable connectivity. And it sounds like what Celona does is you come in and you're beginning with the idea that what is their workload? What is it that they're actually doing, right, to solve the problem of providing that cellular expertise?
Exactly, and many times it's a mix of both. So in many cases, the customer exactly knows. It's like, hey, when my worker walks there, I want to give him all these AI insights. I'm not able to do it.
Right.
But in many cases, there's a lot of transformation happening at these industries. And customers don't know, so we have to sometimes educate them. But what Celona provides is an end-to-end turnkey private 5G solution built for the enterprise. And what that means is you are not kind of creating a completely new shadow network or anything. This is basically plugging into your existing LAN.
Correct.
That's why we call it 5G LAN. And
Got it.
providing connectivity very similar to Wi-Fi, but with much more higher strength, lower latency, and coverage.
So what I'm hearing is that you're actually embedding as part of the customer's OT or enterprise network. You're going to work with that because you realize you're actually solving a couple of things. Number one is it's not complex, meaning you're going to solve the complexity part for their coverage. You're going to provide that complexity, but it sounds like the other part that I always talk about which is cybersecurity. You want that 5G LAN to be part of their extension of their secure network. Is that fair?
Exactly, and that's what we are noticing, right? Because the big telcos, the big telco equipment manufacturers have been trying to get into this space for a very long time.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that it has not gained wide acceptance is because it is almost like if you're an IT or OT professional, you have to manage the shadow network and a network. And suddenly when you look at all the radios and 5G terminologies and things like that, you think you need to be like this 5G expert of sorts. So what our company did differently is, most of our founders came from the Wi-Fi space.
Yeah.
They were early employees at Aruba and Ruckus and places like that.
Yeah.
They went and looked at it and said, like, why can't we just take this 5G network and make it look like a Wi-Fi network?
Yes.
Right? And that was the foundation of the company. So everything we thought was enterprise first. How do you integrate into the enterprise network? How do you, use the existing enterprise network for, securing the devices, zero trust provisioning, everything, right? So I
Yes.
think that's the general DNA of the company.
What are the challenges you're seeing there in terms of that? Because there's lots of what I call IT, OT convergence that's happening right now, meaning you're right. So you want to get rid of, no one wants shadow IT, but no one wants a shadow network that's working in your OT space because there could be present itself with vulnerability. So what are some of the things that Celona you think you're doing right now when you're managing security or quality of service?
Yeah, sure. First of all, we stick with the existing firewalls and things like that the customer might use. They may have a Palo Alto firewall. They might have a Fortinet firewall. We are not saying you need a new firewall for this new network. We basically blend into your existing network.
Got it.
We have different security, zero trust security setups that goes all the way from a device connected to the 5G network all the way to the switches and the edge servers
Right.
inside the IT OT network.
Right.
The point of convergence sometimes also takes us away, because like you want convergence, but you also want the air gapping between the IT and OT network is kind of what we are hearing. So the question is, am I going to have to set up two separate 5G networks, one for IT and one for OT? The answer is really no.
No, right,
No,
exactly.
because we have enough mechanisms using our technology proprietary to our solution called MicroSlicing, where we are able to kind of, even though it's using the same 5G radio, the traffic is completely separate between IT and OT, and it terminates on different switches.
Got it.
On the network. So you basically have one infrastructure, but you're able to have two separate networks in that same infrastructure.
Yes. You know, prior to this, you and I were having a conversation about, you know, the implementation of two things that are, I think we're going to see the rise of, especially in the industrial space, is of course in hazardous environments. You mentioned this in refineries. Two things I think are going to be prevalent. I think we're already at the start of AI agents that are deployed in the workspace. That's happening. You know, you'll see that in industrial AI, just agents. But you hit on something that is, I think, is a next step beyond that we're going to see is going to be physical robotics inside of hazardous situations where there's going to be remote capability, meaning you might have remote control to a set of robotic agents that work in a in a space that is higher risk, that requires probably a higher class and division, right? So without having a legitimate, strong 5G or private 5G, some of that goes away simply because you don't have that secure network, right?
Exactly. So again, if you are trying to operate a robot, like robots do a lot of things autonomously, but really in this environment, what you want is, the ideal situation is, and this is already happening. So,
Yes.
so basically people want to equip their workers with a tablet. You go to a place, you see a problem. In the previous life, people used to go walk back to their office, do a report, send it to an SME, and then connect back. Today, they just want to go there, open a Teams call, do a video conference, show them the problem. What's the solution? So your SME can be in the other side of the planet.
That's
Doesn't
right.
matter.
Yes.
You're able to address the problem then and there,
Yes.
stop production issues,
Yes.
save money, millions of dollars for the company.
Yes.
And potentially, you know, any safety things. Okay, so that's the situation today. We are not very far from that. You know, today with private 5G,
Right.
the number one use case is that.
Yes.
So
I think you're hitting on something, because we have the Energy Tech podcast, we're part of OpSite Energy. Where
Yeah.
Our studio is next to our 24/7 control center. We're direct control, and we're talking about direct control
Yeah.
of assets and process control. Not necessarily high speed, but we're talking about process control environments.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to want that. The other thing you want is the remote access for SMEs to do targeted work on equipment
Exactly.
types, right? That's what you're
Exactly.
getting at.
All right. So fast forward 10, 15 years. Why are we even sending these workers in arm's way, right? Like,
Yes.
if it is a hazardous environment, why are you sending a person and not a robot to do that
Yeah.
same thing? And yeah, while a person might maybe have some sensitivity to, okay, I don't have connectivity here, I'll walk there and I'll take the call. A robot can't do that. You need a robot connectivity where the problem is, right?
Yes.
And you cannot go set up connectivity all of a sudden in a place where the robot requires connectivity. So you need low latency, high bandwidth connectivity, pervasive connectivity everywhere on site.
Yeah, I think you're right. And this is common already. You know, having worked in the manufacturing space, you do notice AVOs, you know, vehicles that move inventory already. That's common. You know, and that requires what you're talking about, which is a complete network that is doing that anyway and providing that low latency, high quality connectivity that you need for autonomous movement of product. Forklifting is another one that's very common already. So we're not even talking about 10, 15. This is like right now.
Yeah.
Whether you run an Amazon facility or you run a plant that does lots of pick and place. So you might do pick and place, you might do movement. that's exactly what you're seeing. So it's just a progression of that with Celona being a provider of that kind of network, right?
Yeah, and not just that. I mean, we are seeing in oil drills and things like that, cranes. There are a lot of cranes which are, think about the security aspect of somebody climbing up a crane and down every day.
Right.
Cranes are getting operated remotely. When you're trying to find oil on the ground, like navigating that bit and
Yeah.
getting that information directly to, a person who knows how to navigate the drill bit on the ground is going to be critical. And you're able to kind of do a closed loop system where you're able to provide real-time data to anyone sitting anywhere in the world and guide that process is kind of what's happening.
If someone here at Intellect is going to get hands-on with you and said, hey, you want to talk to them about whether that's a concept at their particular plant or facility, walk us through some of the things and challenges you like to address with them up front or talk to them about.
Yeah, I think number one is awareness, right? So people are very familiar with public 5G. Private 5G is relatively a new environment. So just like how we spoke about, we need to be able to walk them through, hey, this is the difference between the stuff. But otherwise, it's also very easy to set up. Like, I mean, we have deployed our technology in over like 25 refineries, for example.
Okay.
And typical installation, in a couple of months, we can actually have it running and going. And in smaller warehouses, we can actually turn it around in a couple of days.
Yeah.
So this is very, very easy to set up. You don't have to be some kind of a wireless expert in order to do it. It's like, earlier maybe you were just managing security provisioning of devices. Now you have a SIM-based provisioning and security of the networks. A little minor tweaks, but nothing like somebody can't pick up in a day or two. So basically, the way this one happens is you go talk to the customer about this stuff, then you do what's called an RF planning. So you look at the site, and this is our company or our partners will do that. They will go study the RF, and then they'll say, you need a radio in all these places. And it's not like rigid. It's like if it is very expensive to install a radio at a particular site, we can say, okay, we can do a trade-off of moving the radio here and adjust the RF plan so that it's most cost optimized for the customer. And I'll get to that in a second. Then after you do the RF planning, you basically go install the radios, get the network set up, and we directly connect to the LAN. So you just need like a LAN and power.
Right.
You connect to that LAN and power, and you have your network set up. Next step is the devices, like what devices are there. So this is another friction point that often shows up. So some devices, like your iPhone, natively supports private 5G. So you can just put a eSIM, a Celona eSIM on it, and you can directly connect to it. But you go into this Modbus and those kinds of environments, you need some kind of a magic to be there. And that is where our partners like Digi come into play. They build gateways that support private 5G for a backhaul and support Modbus on the front end of the interface. And they're able to connect to these legacy industrial interfaces that now need to be connected.
So we're talking about a protocol conversion from Modbus with a gateway moved into that private 5G to allow for connectivity and control.
Exactly. So, so once you set it up, now you can build as many use cases as you want because now you have a robust network. And that's what we are seeing. It's like there's this stranded data problem that we hear of often in oil and gas. Like, oh, that machine is so far, it's not cost effective for me to run a fiber there. Now that problem suddenly goes away.
Yes.
So you're now able to just connect a Digi gateway or something over there, backhaul the traffic on a private 5G network, and now you instantly are able to connect all your sensors, all your people, with one robust network that will not go down.
Yeah. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Now I do want to ask you this because we're gonna wrap it up in just a minute here, but I do want to ask you, what about you did mention gateway, so I think you've already addressed this, but I want to bring it up, and that is AI and machine learning at the edge and the handling of that on your 5G networks.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. Like, what are some of the are your customers? I realize on the networks, no one's thinking about all the time, AI and machine learning. But I'm almost convinced that those are still conversations that you're having with your
Yeah,
clients.
yeah, absolutely. And that is the conversation of the day, because everyone talks about AI, they think about ChatGPT, they think about everything.
Yes.
Which is all on the cloud, which is great because they can put, billion-dollar data centers up in the cloud. But when it comes to IoT and reading sensors and things like that, latency is super critical. So really, I think the move in the industry is inference at the edge,
Yes.
as we call it. So what does inference at the edge mean? Which means like you're going to have some type of a data center built into your facility
Right.
that can handle this real-time data and do inferencing on it. Maybe the
Correct.
model still gets trained on the cloud, but the inferencing and the decisions have to be done locally.
Locally at the edge, correct.
So what do you need for that? You need the sensors. Sensors, they do the sensing job properly, but they're dumb in communicating because they're still stuck to Modbus and wired infrastructure.
So you remain trapped at the
Now
edge.
you're basically giving a very low latency, a high reliability link for it to connect to the data center of sorts that's sitting in your enterprise network.
Right.
And be able to do inferencing right on site without having to ship the data anywhere.
Wow.
Making it secure and making it low latency and available at all points in time.
So that is the thinking of Celona right now, having you. I think that is some great thinking. This is not a company that is just planting towers on location saying, here you go. I think Celona's, it sounds to me like you guys are thinking deeper than that, and you're looking at the growth and trajectory of AI and machine learning as part of what's happening at the edge. You're also thinking about the three main things, which is, hey, if you have something legacy, you consider cost. It sounds to me like you've considered complexity.
Yeah.
And you've considered cybersecurity. So I think when I think of Celona right now, if someone wants to address that, they can actually come to your booth and address each one of those.
Exactly. And I kind of want to lay out some numbers here, right?
Yeah.
Like in an industrial environment, the cost of laying cables is, I believe it's $10 to $15 per feet.
Per foot?
Per foot. Take that cost and see what it's going to take for you to connect all the equipment in your
Yes.
factory or refinery, right? And in one refinery where we installed, to put up one radio on the tower was about $40,000. Like this is way beyond the cost of our radios and things like that.
Yes.
Why? Because they need permitting, they need scaffolding, they need one crew watching the other crew, and they're actually installing this stuff. It's like ridiculously expensive.
Yes.
So you want the most minimal infrastructure for connectivity that you can afford to put in there.
Wow.
And then have the most pervasive connectivity that you can get. And that's what private 5G offers.
Wow. So if you're in any space, I realize we are at ENTELEC, but for the sake of anybody, if you're in manufacturing, distribution, and logistics, if you're even in higher education, and if you're even in healthcare, it sounds to me like the Celona fits the bill as well, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So with that, if you're here and you catch this, you can definitely come by Celona's booth. They're here at ENTELEC. You can get with the team there and really talk about your cost, your complexity, your cybersecurity, and the implementation of your private 5G network. And with that, I want to thank our guest. I want to make sure I get this right. Pradhyum Ramkumar.
Thank you,
The
Michael.
man, he is here. You can meet him here at ENTELEC 2026. I'm your co-host, Mike Flores, with the Energy Tech Podcast, right here in Galveston, Texas.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It was good to have you.
Thank you.